Hello Warlords, Rodge here, aka the Wisco Horn Dog. We are back again for another Saga Thursday, your regular source for Saga, the miniatures game goodness. Today, we're taking a look at the Men of Wessex. This is my Anglo-Dane / Anglo-Saxon force, and it's my first Saga faction I've assembled. So I've had these guys for a while, and some of the very first Saga Thursday videos are about painting them and assembling them, stuff like that. But I've just started working on a new faction, and I realized that I never went back and, at least in a video format, put up any of the finished pics of these guys. So today's going to be a little discussion of the warband and its various components and how it all came together. First up, we'll start with the low guys on the totem pole. So these are the feared, the farmers. So these are intended as levies in the Anglo-Saxon force, and then I actually use them as warriors if I'm running Anglo-Danes. So these guys, you can tell, are Wargames factory models, and I didn't really know what I was in for when I picked these up. Looking back then, there's Gripping Beast, Anglo-Saxons, and then there's this Wargames Factory. And I think the Wargames Factory one was just a couple dollars cheaper, and I kind of like the proportions a little bit better. So I'm like, well, I'll just pick these guys up. And wow, the posing on these dudes was pretty bad. So you can see I went for the overhand spears here, and I don't know what it is, but I like all my spearmen to have the same either underhand or overhand. I don't like any of this mixing business. The arms are pretty extensively converted to get most of these poses. I think there's maybe just one or two actual arms like this out of every 4 or 5 guys. So the rest of them are converted. And yeah, it's quite quite a slog getting through everything. The shields, you can see that I did end up getting the Gripping Beast Anglo-Saxons, and I thought I would just be able to interchange the various body parts and just use whatever I like, the best parts of both. But then I saw how different the scale was. So these guys are a little taller than the Gripping Beasts, and they're more truer proportions, I would say. Where the Gripping Beasts, they got kind of chunkier hands, a little shorter, more kind of typical, kind of miniature proportions, and the spears are a little thicker, so a little beefier, a little more dwarvy overall on the Gripping Beast ones. They're both fine. I kind of wish that I probably would have just used the Gripping Beast ones. I think the quality's a little better. I would have saved a lot of time on the posing and stuff like that. And the Gripping Beast plastics are really nice because those proportions hold for all of their various lines. So they've got Dark Age warriors, there's a Viking box. So I really would have been able to mix up some of those different arms and stuff like that. But as it was, I already had these guys, and I was already up to my elbows in conversions and before I realized what was going on. So a couple things here. So these shields, just went for a plain look on these guys, and I did use the airbrush on some of the shields. Looking at them, you can't really tell. Actually, in the photo, they look like some of them might not even have any shading at all, but there is some slight shading on all of them. It's not super pronounced. These are supposed to be the kind of the crappier guys with the rundown shields. So I went for more of a basic look on these guys, and the airbrushing I did was really basic. What I did was I just painted the shields white and then airbrushed a kind of a black fade on them, and then I went back and did some glazes over it. I didn't even really have the gonads to really do any shading directly on it. Now I would paint all these shields base color, so I'd do a blue, reds, yellows, and then I would just quickly do the same kind of a dark bluish black shading on all of them, and I think it'd be way faster and it would look a lot better now that I have some airbrush chops under my belt. But most of the time was spent on the cloth, which if we turn them around, you can see From the front, you can't even see all the work that was done. And you can see that there's a lot of blending going on. I used a lot of washes, even just mixing the washes directly with the paints to get some smooth blends. Didn't really care for these quilted looking guys. There was a lot of work individually kind of highlighting each one of those. And this was kind of a experiment just with subtle tones, subtle shading. So overall, it looks a little flat from further out, but if you look close, you'll see that there's some pretty gradual blends. Okay, moving on. Here's the next batch. I think you can see some of the shield blending a little easier in this photo, but same sort of thing. On the back, you can see I only did one guy in green. I did that one guy, and then I'm like, I don't know. I'm getting like a weird Robin Hood vibe from this guy. I'm not gonna make any more of them green. On the left-hand side, you can see there's a nice dude with some long mullet hair here. I actually did quite a bit of green stuff on just different mustaches and stuff like that. The Saxons are supposed to be known for their wicked, powerful mustaches. So as we look at some of the faces here, just keep an eye out for those. So now we're getting into the warriors, if I'm using these as Anglo-Saxons, or these would be Hearthguard for my Anglo-Danes. So actually I have, how many is it? I think I have 24 warriors and 16 of these guys. No, actually I have 24 of these guys as well. Yeah, that's right. So there's 48 guys plus a couple warlords. So warband is pushing the size count for sure. So all of these were freehand. So that was kind of the little project with these guys, was doing the freehand. And I think most of them turned out pretty good. I kind of ran out of gas right before Adepticon and kind of just ended up doing more quarters than I probably would have liked to otherwise. But yeah, not really any of this was done with the airbrush. Maybe a little bit, like I was saying before. I just highlighted white on top, dark shade on the bottom, and then did some glazes over it on some of these, but not all of them. And then I went back with the Micron pen, and I think they turned out pretty good. So some of that really early Saga Thursday videos, there's a freehand shield tutorial, and then you can actually, there's just a video of me painting a few of these, so you can kind of see how I did them. And you can see I mixed in some of the gripping beast heads, because they're a little bigger than the Wargames factory ones. And from behind, you can see their chainmail, everything they got going on. One thing with these guys was I really couldn't really do that much with them as far as colors go, because basically they just had sleeves and then a little bit poking out from under the chainmail. So there wasn't a lot of space to do anything fancy with designs or anything like that. So I ended up just keeping them pretty basic. You can see some of the swords I mixed in. Some of these are gripping beast swords or just various swords I had laying around. The swords that came with these guys, so the guy on the far left has the sword that came with it, and just a real skinny, I guess it's probably realistic scale, but the way that it was attached to the sprue meant it was really difficult to get it off without mangling the sword. So I actually mangled quite a few of these and ended up just using these other swords. And we got the next batch here. So I wanted all the warriors / Hearthguard to have some metal helmets, but I didn't quite have enough heads. Working in a few axes over here. And here's the last bunch. So you can see, actually, in addition to the different arm poses and stuff like that, I did do a little green stuff to kind of separate these guys and kind of make them a little different. So the third one from the left, you can see it kind of has a little hood poking out behind him. There's a piece of leather there. And then the guy second from the right, he's got some, I don't know, kind of like a scarf or something going around. And some of the guys have little straps and stuff like that. All right, now we're getting to the last unit I actually painted up. So these guys actually weren't included in my earlier count. So I have eight more of these guys. So I've got close to 60 models in the warband that I could use. So these were pretty heavily converted. I'm using almost all of the bodies are Wargames factory guys, and then I use the various arms to pose. So the guy second from the right, he's a gripping beast guy, and he kind of looks like a little shorty next to these other guys. Maybe you can't really tell in the photo because there's a dude to the left of him is hunched over, but in certain situations he does look like a little dwarf. So the axes, I think they came from a Viking. I think they came from a Viking gripping beast sprue, and I almost had enough. There was 7 of them total, and it was a pain in the ass getting all the hands lined up. Basically, I attached the arms, and then the hands are attached separately, and then you had to line them up with the axe. And it was a beast, but I think these are some of the better looking models in the warband. These are the last ones I painted. You can see I was able to achieve a few different poses. And with this second group, you can see there's one guy, he's just got like a normal axe, but he's like, hey, I'm hanging out with you guys. I got a double hander too. Come on, let me into the group. But during the game, you can't really tell what's going on with that guy. And here's a shot from the rear. They're probably my favorite unit, just painting wise. They're probably my favorite unit on the battlefield, just painting wise. I don't really like them for gameplay purposes, but I think they look pretty cool and fearsome. Moving along, here's my baggage guys for the escort scenario. So these are gripping beasts. These are the crazy monks. So they come in a pack of 12. And I really knew that I just wanted 3 of them, so I think I ended up selling the rest of them to a buddy. So I modeled them on the bigger bases, and then each one has a treasure chest that they're protecting. So the one in the middle, the treasure chest is behind them there. And they kind of did some speed paint on these guys, based on pretty basic looking fellows. One thing was the mold lines on these were really, really bad. I have to say. So I picked the ones with the best face. So some of the mold lines were directly on their faces. So I picked the 3 best looking ones and did my best. But overall, they look pretty cool, pretty fun. They look like they could maybe defend themselves. I don't know if they have a 5+ armor, ignoring the first hit toughness look to them, but they they get the job done. All right, here is the Anglo-Dane Warlord. So this is a Mears Miniatures model. He's converted from, they have like a Kjartan standard bearer, I think is what he's called. So I call this guy Kjartan. He reminds me of the bad guy from, the bad Viking from seasons 2 and 3 of Vikings, with the way that his hair is slicked back and his big mustache like that. Jarl Borg, I think is his name, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. So I took the standard out, put an axe over his shoulder, and went to town on him. It's funny, the Mears Miniatures proportions are really realistic. So he doesn't look, if you put him next to the other guys, he's actually not really hardly any bigger than anybody else. But he is on a little mound here, mounted at the base. He's got the 40 mil, and he's a good to go. And he's a resin model, and he went together pretty well. Just did a basic color scheme to tie him in with the rest of the guys. Here we got Father Gregorius. This is a gripping beast warrior priest, and this is a pretty cool model. I did convert it slightly by adding a shield to him. Basically, I just glued it onto his banner pole hand there. So he doesn't come with one originally, but I think with the pose, you can get away with it. It looks like he's holding them all together there. So cool model. Just did a classic red-white, kind of meant to be a kind of like a gold filigree-ish kind of look around the edges. But painted up really nice. Looks pretty badass. Next up we got Father Tale. So this guy is from the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures range from Dark Sword Miniatures. It's actually the Samuel Tarley figure. And It's funny, these came out way before the show, and so they're based off kind of the book descriptions, and the book descriptions are kind of a high medieval kind of look, but the Night's Watch and the Wildlings, as we shall see, kind of they have a little more Dark Ages, a little less high-tech feel to them. So I did convert him. That's a brass rod banner pole, and the cross is just made out of plastic card. So Father Tala here is a religious advisor, and I think he works pretty good. He's pretty inspiring. He's a pretty crafty fellow, and another basic paint job, just using the same colors to time in with everybody. And last, we've got the big man, the Elfin Raven Killer, as I like to call him. So this is another Song of Ice and Fire miniatures model, and he looks pretty badass. He is a little bit bigger than the rest of the gang. He kind of is probably, if everybody else is 28 mil, in the Wargames factory, I would say they're 28 mil, but they're more truer scale. But this guy, he's a little truer scale as well, but he's probably maybe like a 32 millimeter. He's maybe 10-15% bigger. He is mounted on a bigger base too, so he looks pretty big in comparison to the other guys. But it doesn't, in photos maybe, but out on the tabletop, I think he looks about the right size. So really like this guy. He has his armor and stuff definitely fits the time period, and it really didn't do much to the model. One thing was his leather bits were a little more raggedy on the actual model, so I just filled those in with green stuff to give him a nicer, newer look. The leathery stuff on him was pretty fun. I used kind of like a snakebite leather as the highlight, and then worked purples in to kind of a dull shade there. So really like the shield. I like the geometric design on there. I would say I like to represent him more as like a pagan Anglo-Saxon lord, like your Uhtred of Bebbanburg type character. So I think that works really well. One thing I have to say is the sword up top is kind of flimsy and it bends all the time. And I try not to bend it back because I don't want it to pop off eventually. But at some point I might have to replace that blade with like a plastic bit or something like that. It looks a little flimsy. But the sword, it looks a little bit more traditional, maybe more like a high medieval look. But otherwise, it's definitely a cool looking model. So there they are, the Men of Wessex. Hope you enjoyed that look at my warband and what I've been using at Adepticon and my pickup games the last few years. I'll hopefully be sort of setting these guys back on the shelf as I work on a new project. I'll be doing some vlog type updates on those guys as they materialize, but I hope to get them done this summer to use at the Renegade Open, which is in November. So hopefully over the next 3 or 4 months, I can assemble these guys and get them done. So I'm not going to talk about them in this video, but just stay tuned on the channel, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along as I build those guys. But in the meantime, if you have any questions about these guys, any of the models I used, the paints, techniques, anything like that, please post below. Like I said, the early Saga Thursday videos do have some tutorial type stuff on these guys and how I did them. Yeah, they've been serving me well over the last couple, well, maybe a year and a half or so, and really like how they turned out, and I can't wait to get on to the next faction though. So I think that will be it for today. Thanks for liking, subscribing to this shit, and thanks for checking out my stuff. If you like this, please share with a friend, and keep on hobby horn dogging. I'll catch you guys next time. Saga!